On this episode of Carnage, we're going to take the nitrous system out of this and stick it in this. From this to this. Hey guys, and welcome back to Carnage. Sorry we haven't been around for a little bit, but drag challenge things, yes. Drag challenge has taken a lot of our energy in the last few weeks, and if you've been watching the videos, you'll know that drag challenge is done and dusted. And while we didn't get to race, we were there working away and around behind the scenes. Maddie was off filming videos all up until 4 a.m. in the morning, most mornings, getting those videos up for every day. So big shout out to Maddie and the video team. Yes, big effort. And then obviously I was there running staging lanes and just organising stuff, and yeah. But it all went off mostly without a hitch. We got rained out kind of on the last day, but everyone, well, most of everyone got to make a pass on the last day. And yeah, it was a good event. But now we're back in the Carnage workshop and it's time to do Carnage things. Now earlier in the year, we put nitrous on the Lexan, but instead of spraying the nitrous into the engine, we sprayed it onto the intercooler to see if that would give us enough horsepower to get us across the line in, you know, the 9-second zone. But on the dyno, it made no extra power, like none at all. So we figure instead of wasting the nitrous system on this car, let's move it over to this car and make more power, because the little V6 doesn't actually make a lot of power. I mean, it's 4.2 litre stroker. It has the M90 blower on it with a sort of a medium sort of boost pulley on it. But we've seen other cars with nitrous make pretty good power and go into the 10-second zone. So we think maybe we should try that. So let's put nitrous on this thing and see how we go. I know we were going to turbo it, and we are, well, maybe. Things are happening, but anyway. We'll see what happens there, but let's go with nitrous. Let's give it a spray, and then we can take it out of the drag strip and see what it's going to do. But first, let's put nitrous on it. So let's start by ripping the nitrous kit out of this thing. Wiring and wiring. Okay, yep. Step one. I'm going to tidy this up one of these days. One day. Wow, this is going to be the easiest nitrous uninstall video ever. See kids, if you don't install things properly, it makes it easier to uninstall. Carnage logic. That feels very empty. It's pretty empty. There's pressure in there, but as you can see, there's no nitrous spray. Yeah, she empty. Right, well, we've got all the nitrous stuff out of this now. It's all there on the table. Now we're going to need to get it into the VN. So we're going to play switcheroos. We're going to get the VN on the hoist. Lexington can go over there. I've done some research on the old Howtech website and make sure that this is actually going to work, because this has an older ECU in it. It's got the GM Platinum Sport, and basically I've had to dust off one of the old boxes. Never throw away your old boxes, because it had all the little pins and plugs for all the additional stuff, because you know it is a plug-in ECU, but if you want extra stuff like nitrous activation or boost solenoids and stuff, that has to be plugged in via another plug, and they give you the plugs and pins in the box, but you have to wire it in. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that we will have to do when fitting the nitrous to the VM, but I wanted to make sure that nitrous activation was a thing that we can do, because you know we want to do it as a dry system, not a wet system. So basically it'll spray nitrous into the engine, and the fuel will come in through the injectors, and then it'll have to activate a new fuel table for those injectors, you know, for the extra fuel it needs to spray, and it also needs to activate a new timing map as well, you know, to pull the timing back. You have to run less timing with nitrous. All these things that we'll get into, but yeah. First, let's swap some cars. Right, well, we're going to start from the back of the car, install our bottle brackets, our bottle, our line, and then move up the front, and we're going to have to do the solenoid, the nozzle, and then hook it all up to the ECU. But bottle brackets first. Thankfully, I've already had a bottle in this car before. We never used it. So now we've got the holes there, so that makes this job a lot easier. So that way it should be angled correctly for the bottle. Thankfully the VN has a bit of a gap above the fuel tank on this side, so long enough that you can stick some 1-inch bolts through, bolt the bottle in. That's very handy. Right, so we've got our bottle mounts in. Let's sit our bottle in there, make sure it fits right. Okay. Right, nitrous bottle fitted. Okay, so line is easy. You've got a few plugs in the floor here. We're just got to find one that goes all the way through a chassis rail or something. I think this is the one we used before, but I'll have to check. Yep, there's even a hole in it. I didn't see it before, but yep. Before we start running lines through things, I'm just going to whack a bit of tape on them to keep the dirt out of the fittings, because if you get dirt in there and it ends up lodged in a solenoid, it can hang it open. You do not want that. No. Down you go. So just to give us a bit more room, we've whipped the bonnet off. So we're going to run a dry shot. So it just means we need a nitrous solenoid, not a fuel solenoid as well. So we'll run our extra fuel through the injectors. We'll run a nitrous solenoid up here, and we're going to put a fogger. Let's see where we go. We might go straight into the blower housing here, which means we need to remove the blower. A little bit finicky, but you know, we've done that a million times, so not that big a job. But yeah, I think if we put a fogger into this back of the blower here, just shoot it straight into the back of the blower, I think that's the way to go. And I've actually asked Paul Rappo from Rappo Performance his advice, and that's what he did with his thing, and he runs 10s, like does it easy. So yeah, I think that's the way we'll go. All right, well, I guess we'll mount our, let's whip the blower off first actually. I can mount the solenoid, but it'll just get in the way. Let's whip the blower off, have a look at that and see where we can put our fogger into it, and then we'll go from there. It is not light. My back is not good. So if we go in through here, I don't really want to go in through the top, which would probably work the best, but it's just going to like stand out really majorly. Although, like I said, it will work the best. It's more hidden if we go in the side. So, do we want it to work the best or look the best? So I have made a decision. We're going straight in the top, all right? Dug around our drill bits, found the appropriate drill bit, 15/64, and I have the correct 1/16 NPT tap. Who would have thought after 9 years that we'd actually have all the right bits? Anyway, here we go. Right, so I grabbed a bit of cloth there, that's fine, because I jammed a heap of rags in the back just to keep crap out of the supercharger. We'll see if we can make sure that the tap doesn't grab that stuff. Industry standard. Cool. All right, so the fogger nozzle is opposite to this nitrous entry path. So basically this has to be at the back. So doodle at the back. that is lined up. And that's positioned perfectly in the port. Let's bolt it on. Hoppa! Okay, so that'll go like that. Then we have to run that off there. That'll be our purge line. And then we're going to run this line off here. We'll loop it around a little bit because it's too long. But all we have to do now is put an adapter here. So that's -3, this is -4. So we need an adapter from 3 to 4, and then we put our nitrous jet in there, put our adapter on there, do our line up, and then we'll have nitrous system. In theory. Nah, it'll be all done pretty much. So yeah, just got to go down and get really a fitting for there. I think I have everything for here. All I'll need is a bit of line for our purge to exit the vehicle, because that looks cool. If our purge solenoid looks a bit crispy, it's because this came from the Toxic Avenger many, many years ago. Remember that fire? Gotta love nitrous. Right, so I've had a bit of a dig around in our stock of Proflow fittings and found a fitting that will work. So, -3 at this end. I've misplaced my nitrous jets. I know I've got a set around here somewhere. I cannot find them. If I can't find them, I'll just go buy one. But the plan is to put 100 shot in this thing to start off with. I think that's a good place to start. I think Paul Rappo runs like 150 shot in his, no problems at all. And that's on a pretty much a stock, not even L67 bottom end. That's an NA bottom end, I believe. So, yeah. So with forged pistons, good rods, all that sort of thing, I think, yeah, we're going to have no problem with that. So, fitting goes on our fogger. Obviously, we'll put a jet in there later. Got our purge solenoid. So the idea behind a purge solenoid isn't just to show off, although it is pretty cool. It's to remove all the, let's say, dirty nitrous from the line, because after a while, when your bottle's open, you know, your bottle keeps everything nice and cool there, but the line has nothing to keep it cool. So eventually the nitrous will turn into gas in the line, and you end up with just like a bad batch of nitrous right at the start. So So when you hit the throttle, the engine's pulling timing, you know, because you've already set it up in the computer to pull timing. You've set it up to dump a heap of fuel in there to match the nitrous, but the nitrous that's coming out isn't really good quality nitrous, so it'll stumble and cough and carry on. So to prevent that, you purge all that crap nitrous out of the line, get a nice cool clean shot, ready there at the solenoid, so when you hit the button or hit the throttle and the nitrous comes on, you get a nice crisp hit of nitrous and all the fuel and timing is correct for that, and you just motor on out of there. That's what a purge solenoid is really for. Although, like I said, purging nitrous before the run looks pretty cool and nice little, yeah, puts your competitor on edge. So obviously we're not going to purge into our engine bay. So I found a piece of copper line floating around the workshop. Right, so we'll just bend this. I already kind of had a bit of a pre-bend, but it's copper, so it's soft. So I'm just going to, I'll probably tie it into place there. It'll just go across the seal for the bonnet. But yeah, it's just going to shoot up over the windscreen there. All right, quick demonstration. Right, so we're going to go off and do another job, which means I don't have time to wire this up correctly right now. But the plan is to wire, or to install a CAN keypad, which we can plug into our Haltech ECU. That's easy, it's literally just a plug. That all works, nice and easy. Then I've got to wire the ECU relay, ECU to a relay that controls this solenoid, because obviously this solenoid draws a lot of power, so I've got to run it for a relay. So we're going to run that for the ECU, and the idea will be that Zane will tune it so it pulls timing and adds fuel when the nitrous is activated. So I'm going to activate the purge system via the CAN keypad when I install that, but in the meantime, there's no nitrous in there, there's only pressure in the bottle, but that works. And then if I was to go like so, so that's how it's going to work, pretty much. So the nitrous will be controlled by the ECU, purge system will be controlled by CAN keypad. We'll get all that wired up in the next day or two, well, next day basically, and hopefully have it on the dyno next week for you. So you're going to see all that on a future episode of Carnage.